Story 1. Some background: I'm currently a production assistant for a TV show, which means I do everything asked of me, and a lot of times that means grocery shopping for the office. The cast in today's adventure: me, 23 male, nice lady, confused gentleman, and, of course, Karen. Now, I'm an office production assistant, so I dress a tiny bit nicer than if I was running around on set. Today's outfit was a collared button-down, jeans, and an old Star Wars pullover sweater because it was chilly, and a lanyard with my lot badge around my neck. My boss sent me to a grocery store that rhymes with Jader Toes and handed me a list of hyper-specific salads, wraps, and other goodies for the office staff to eat. Boss also tells me, the salads with later expiration dates are way in the back. Make sure you grab those. Like a good assistant, I nod and dash out to my car to head to Jader Toes. Once in the store, I pop in my AirPods to listen to a podcast while shopping and start hunting for these hyper-specific items. I have a list in my hand, am crouched down, and sticking my arm way back under the shelves to grab the salads with the further off expiration dates, when a nice lady approaches me and asks if I work there. I apologize and say, "No, sorry," and she is polite, apologizes and says she wasn't sure, but it kind of looked like I was stocking moving things around. I say no worries and she heads on her way. A couple seconds later, as I'm loading extremely specific salads with extremely specific dates on them into my cart, an older confused gentleman approaches and asks if I know where some greens are. I tell him, "No, sorry, I don't work here," and he says, "Oh, I thought you just helped her." The nice lady was still nearby and jumped to help both of us with a "Nope." I asked him if he worked here. He doesn't. The gentleman looked like he didn't believe me and looked at my cart. I explained I was a production assistant on the nearby studio lot and was just shopping for work. He seemed to finally understand, but then turned to the nice lady to ask her if she knew where his greens were. I laughed and continued on my way, AirPods in my ears, when I heard over the din of my podcast, "Hey, you, excuse me." My whole body clenched in fear. Reddit. I look up from my shopping list and am greeted with a grade A, right out the stereotype factory Ella Karen. "Where's the egg rolls?" "No hello." "No, do you work here?" "Nothing." Just pure Karen. "I don't work here." "Yes you do. I just saw you help those people." "Nope." They also asked if I work here, and I told them no. "You look like you work here. Where's the egg rolls?" She was blocking my cart at this point. "I don't work here, so I don't know. Sorry." I don't know if this woman didn't believe me, didn't listen, or just straight up wanted to waste my and her own time. But she once again asked me about her egg rolls, and the "I don't know" exchange repeated. Finally, she started getting mad. I thought she was going to ask for my manager, but instead she literally stomped her foot and goes, "Why do you look like you work here if you don't work here? You're wearing a badge." I wanted to question what about a Star Wars hoodie, Critical Role lanyard, and a work badge for the TV studio down the street screamed, "I work at Jader Toes," but I didn't. I was too dumbfounded. I'm a production assistant. I am working, but not here. Finally, an employee came down the aisle and Karen set her sights on him. "Do you work here?" she asks the guy wearing a Jader Toes t-shirt, pushing a backroom stock cart of boxes and wearing a name tag. He nods and Karen once again points at me. "You shouldn't let people in here who look like they work here if they don't work here." Me and this poor employee share the pained, dead inside look of two people who have had to work with the public. I hope my look came across as apologetic as I felt, but I used this chance to escape and finish up my shopping as quickly as I could. In my line of work, I'm no stranger to very dumb questions and being yelled at, but even Karens make me want to tuck tail and run. I missed a few items off the shopping list and will probably be sent back to Jader Toes before this workday is done, but I'll be sure to not look like I work there for any future visits. Karen, wherever you are, I hope you never found your egg rolls. Story 2. For over 40 years, I worked as a jeweler and gemologist at my family's jewelry shop, and one day, a middle-aged man in his 60s came in with his 30-year-old prima donna bride-to-be. My father knew and remembered the man's late wife from several years before she passed away because he was a long-time customer. He had made a comeback. My father and I waited for them, and she forced me to get the most expensive metal platinum and the largest side diamond wedding set possible. We found a suitable one, which also happened to be our most expensive collection, and she announced that a 3-carat diamond was the absolute minimum she should consider, since her first marriage's diamond was that size, and she should be upgrading to a larger diamond. She believed that a 4-carat diamond was the way to go. My father pointed out that her dainty hands would be too small and not a conforming match for a massive rock, and that the ring should complement the side, and she said she would consider a 3-carat minimum. We took out a variety of diamonds and magnified them with a gemscope from 10 to 60 times. We discovered a D color, which is the best color, and a VVS-2, which means it has a slight inclusion near the edge that is not visible to the naked eye. And the internally flawless was 60K instead of 20K. It weighed in at 3.21 carats. We showed her the inclusion at 30x magnification, and she couldn't sleep at night because she couldn't sleep at night thinking what an inclusion and defect was in her diamond. The man was taken aback and explained that it is only noticeable under high magnification, and that having a perfect diamond is unlikely because no one will know how to appreciate it. She cried as she set the mounting on the counter and turned around to walk out the door, declaring that she didn't want to get married if she couldn't get what she wanted. The man was angry and ordered my father to search for a 3-carat flawless diamond before leaving to comfort the enraged young gold digger. That afternoon, my father called him and told him about his proposal. Pop explained that if we install the same diamond with a 6-prong platinum head, the inclusion would be hidden and not visible even under a lens, and she won't be able to tell the difference. He accepted and gave us his CC hash, and we had it fixed and the ring sized for her, and we called him, and they came in right away, and she was really excited, and she insisted on looking under the microscope and with the high magnification, and she looked and looked, and she finally said, "Oh my goodness, this is such a better gem, so much more brilliant, polished, and perfect like me, and I will live and be content with this for the rest of my life." She hugged him, and he put the ring on her finger, and she exclaimed, "Now our honeymoon in Europe will be so fun." Around 2 years later, he came in alone and said he had a nasty divorce because she had a long-term boyfriend who was sneaking around with her as she was always shopping and wasting his money, and he found him driving his Jaguar. He then had an investigator record everything and expose what she did, and she got out of this divorce with just a token amount of money, which got her so mad as she thought she deserved more. Story 3. Not sure if this fits, but wasn't sure where else it would. I was standing in line to get into the supermarket today, and the person just before me was an older gentleman who was not wearing a mask or facial covering, and appropriately, wearing a biker jacket with a big patch that read, "Drop Helmet Laws." The store has someone at the door, usually a teenager or an elderly greeter, whose job it is to ensure everyone entering the store has a face covering per their nationwide corporate mandate and under our state law. As the man arrived at the greeter, who could not have been a day under 65, she said, "Excuse me, you need a face covering to enter." He said to the old woman in this macho authoritative voice, "No, I don't. It's okay," and tried to walk into the store. The old woman goes, "Actually, sir, you do. It's not just policy anymore, it's the law." And he starts spouting off about how it's an unconstitutional law, and how the greeter isn't in a position to enforce laws. A minute or two pass, and people further back who can't see what's happening at the front of the line are getting restless. They begin to try and see what's happening. The guy is saying, "Look, you're holding the line. If the masks really do work, then everyone who's wearing one is safe, right? And if they don't, then why do you care?" And she was getting kind of desperate at this point and said, "Well, sir, because I could lose my job if I let you in there." This is where I come in. I hadn't spoken up before because this was a big guy, and I'm just a student who's no good in a confrontation. I figured adding myself to the mix would only make the situation worse. So I took out my phone and started recording. I figured he would be less likely to do something violent to the greeter or escalate further if he knew he was on camera. Here's what I had forgotten. I was wearing a shirt from a 5K season that was sponsored by our local news. So had Channel X Eyewitness News in huge print across the front. The guy's wife goes, "Good Lord, Howie, the news is filming. What if my work sees this?" So he turns to me and starts telling me he doesn't consent to be on TV, and starts making a speech how we're all treading on the Constitution, not respecting people's rights to bodily autonomy or privacy. I'm trying to tell him I'm not with the news, and he's like, "I don't care if you're on the clock or not. I don't want to be on camera, and I won't be forced to wear anything I don't want to wear. When did we forget that this is America?" Now this is where it got crazy. The line stretched all the way around the building, and people towards the end were realizing it hadn't moved in a while, and were coming up to investigate. An even bigger, more macho guy comes lumbering up and asks what the problem is. Sees this guy going off at the terrified elderly greeter, me shaking holding my phone, and is like, Sir, what's the problem right now? People are trying to shop." The maskless guy tells him, and I quote, "Get away from me. This here isn't your business." The more macho guy proceeds to whip out a badge and identify himself as an off-duty police officer, and that the law is, in fact, his business. First, he tries to have the cop arrest me for putting him on the news without his consent. But I just played dumb at that point. My adrenaline was through the roof, and if I had been able to retain my peace of mind, I would have left by that point and shopped somewhere else. The biker guy is now saying to the cop, "This isn't what you went into the academy dreaming about, man, is it? You're not stopping bad guys. You're forcing regular people to go against their beliefs." Cop said, "No one is forcing you to do anything, sir. You are free to make your own choices. You can put on a mask, or you can go home. Decide which you would like to do, because there is a line here." The biker guy keeps saying he isn't doing anything illegal, and he has a right to shop in a public business, and the cop just shakes his head and starts quoting the official mask law that the guy is breaking at him. But the biker guy is just talking over him at that point, and the cop realizes he isn't getting anywhere. So the cop says, "Look, I don't want to escalate this, but you're not giving me a choice in this situation. If you won't leave of your own volition, you're trespassing," and starts explaining what will happen. The biker guy is ready to stand firm and says he knows he's in the right, but his wife is smarter and says, "Howie, are you insane? The man's a police officer," and very ashamedly apologizes as she forces him to leave with various threats. Took nearly 15 minutes to get into the store, caused a major backlog of shoppers, and made a poor elderly woman fear for her safety. Just wear the mask or get your groceries delivered. I mean, seriously, people, of all the hills to die on. Story 4. So, first things first, this is not my story, but my friend's. He told me about it in as much detail as possible since it happened only a few days ago. Yes, he is okay with me posting it. We both enjoy stories like this and often read them on the internet. Here are the people in the story. My friend, the entitled parent, who is the Karen. She had something similar to the stereotypical Karen haircut, but it was in rough shape since it was apparently self-cut. The curious little kid, who was around 4 years old. And the cool ticket inspector. Now, onto the story. My friend was on his way to the town where he is doing his apprenticeship. He was taking the train like he always does, and it was about a 6-hour ride. He got on the train and went to his reserved seat. It was one of those seating arrangements where 2 seats face 2 other seats, with a table in the middle. And there she was, the Karen of our story, sitting with her little girl. After a while, my friend got a bit bored, so he took out his Nintendo Switch and started playing. Curious kid, "Mommy, what is that?" Karen, "A PlayStation." My friend thought, ugh, how can someone mistake a Nintendo Switch for a PlayStation? About an hour later, my friend was getting tired of gaming and was about to put his switch away. That's when it happened. The Karen suddenly grabbed his arm and said, "My little girl can play with it now." My friend, no, I'd rather not. Also, the games I have wouldn't be suitable for her. He was playing titles like The Witcher 3, Warframe, and probably Mario Kart. Karen, we will see about that. She reached for his switch, but my friend quickly pulled it back and started packing it away. My friend, again, no. This is my Nintendo Switch, and I don't want strangers playing around with it. Karen, you shouldn't be so rude. That's bad behavior, and I don't want my little angel seeing that. So give that thing to me. My friend, still, I won't give you my Switch. That's final. Karen, you spoiled teenagers are always disrespecting adults and doing whatever you want. Not everyone has as much money as your parents. They probably bought that thing for you, so the least you could do is let other kids play with it too. My friend, sorry, I'm already working and earning my own money, and I bought it myself. Karen, yeah, sure. Finally, the cool ticket inspector arrived to check everyone's tickets. He noticed the situation and said politely, "Sorry, ma'am, but could you please leave this person alone? Otherwise, you may have to change seats." At that point, Karen went quiet. The inspector checked my friend's ticket first and then asked for Karen's. The problem was that Karen did not have one. "Inspector, I'll have to write a bill for you and send it to your profile. You will have to pay it later." He then looked up her information using her identification and added, "You'll also need to get off the train at the next stop, ma'am." After a long argument between them, it came out that Karen had been avoiding paying for her train rides regularly and had never settled any of her fines. Because of this, she was officially banned from using the train until she paid all of her outstanding bills. So, she had to leave at the next station. My friend ended up having 4 seats all to himself for the rest of his 6-hour ride, which turned out to be a nice bit of peace and quiet. Edit. Since someone asked how they could bill her for past fare dodges without a record, let me explain. My friend and I live in Germany, and the railway companies here keep records of things like that. She was billed at the time of each incident, and the company, Deutsche Bahn, Germany's largest railway company, has profiles for people they catch avoiding fares. As far as I know, they check against those profiles whenever situations like this happen. Story 5. Not entirely sure if this story fits here, but I wanted to share it, and this is where I think it fits best. I am a broke college student. Not like I spend all of my money on DoorDash and weed so I don't have enough money to go out with friends kind of broke, but rather I once ate a piece of cheesecake that I found on the side of the road because I was hungry kind of broke. Anyhow, I have managed to find a way to swindle a certain convenience store to unwittingly give me coupons that I could use to get free food every now and then. I had worked there before, so I knew how to take advantage of their coupon system as much as they had taken advantage of me while I worked there. Well, one day I had gotten $11 in coupons, which I was very excited to use to buy myself some groceries. Now, convenience stores are great, but when it comes to groceries, well, they aren't grocery stores, so options are a bit limited. Of course, for me it's free, so I'm not complaining. So I'm walking up and down the aisles, looking for something slightly nutritious so that I can eat real food and not get that groggy, "I've been eating nothing but peanut butter and bread for the last week" type of feeling. You know the one. After grabbing some peanut butter and bread, a stack of pink catches my eye. My heart drops. Could it be? Do they have meat? My legs pull me over to the meat stack faster than I can process this miracle, and I am suddenly face to face with a giant stack of packaged salami. Finally, some good food. I grab myself a package of salami, and it becomes my new best friend. I imagine our life together. The sandwiches, the snacks, and best of all, the satisfaction of having a real meal. I put the peanut butter back and exchanged it for some mayonnaise and mustard. Peanut butter had gotten me through some hard times, but sometimes you just gotta upgrade. I'm sorry, old pal. Papa just needs some meat. I go to the checkout stand with my salami, beaming like a maniac. After getting home, I am ecstatic about this meat, and I immediately unwrap the salami. As soon as I begin peeling it, I realize my mistake. Instantly, the wrath of Genghis Khan charges directly from the meat to my nostrils with a weaponized stench that pulls at my stomach. This is no salami. This is a foul, vile monster. I try to reseal the salami to contain its stench, but it is too powerful. The salami refuses to be contained. Panicked, I scour the house for anything I can find to vanquish this terrible monster that has let loose in my house. I happen across a freezer bag, into which I throw the salami. This displeases the salami. Furious, the salami begins planning its revenge. The freezer bag contains the stench for now, so I place it into the fridge to return to the store the next day. My thinking is that the freezer bag will subdue the salami until the next day. But I am a fool, a jester, and a clown. Overnight, the salami rebuilds its arsenal. The night passes, and I am ready to rid myself of this foul demon. I open the fridge. The most putrid, insulting, horrific smell rips its way out of the fridge, grabbing me by the nose and tearing it clean off. The taste of salt fills my mouth, and I am unsure if it is from the salami or the tears streaming down my face. I rush to grab another few freezer bags and contain the salami as best as I can. The signature stench of the salami has filled the room. It's not going away on its own, so I open a window and head back to the convenience store with salami in one hand and a receipt in the other. I arrive and make my way to the cashier. As usual, I look malnourished and have baggy clothing, marking me as a suspicious customer. I go to send the salami back from whence it came, but the cashier has suspicions of my return. Of course. So why exactly are you returning this, sir? Asterisk, please don't make me open the bag. The displeased salami becomes eager. It smells really bad. I would open the bag, but I really don't think that's a good idea. Sir, I can't do the refund if it's in this bag. You need to take it out to return it. I put it in a clear bag, so you can scan the barcode through the bag. Trust me, you really don't want me to open this. Sir, I can't do this return without you opening the bag. Either open the bag or take it home. I can't refund your money if it's in a bag. I worked at this chain for 3 years, and that has never been a policy. I don't know why you would make that up other than to somehow catch me in some act. Sigh. Are you sure? Yes, it is our policy. No, it isn't, but if you insist, then very well. Don't say I didn't warn you. I barely crack open the freezer bags, and the salami, furious, bursts out with a stench so sour that even the Karen in line behind me pulls her mask over her nose. Actually, the cashier begins coughing as I pull the salami out of the bag. She apologizes profusely about the foul-smelling meat and scans the beast before issuing me $5.99 in store coupons. I take the bag with me, leaving no line of defense between the cashier and the salami. You said you can't accept bags, right? Well, I guess I'll just keep these bags then. She tries using a store bag to contain the salami, but to no avail, as the store bags aren't airtight. You didn't want my bags, so have fun working next to the salami until the line dies down. I grab 2 jars of peanut butter and buy them with a coupon and head back home to have me some peanut butter and bread. Should have just stuck with Old Reliable. Story 6. I have a neighbor who genuinely believes that my family being in our own backyard is the reason their dog won't stop barking. They've made it clear they don't want us outside because their untrained dog gets worked up whenever we're back there. At the end of May, I installed a floodlight pointing downward near our shed so my brother could see better at night. That same evening, the neighbor came outside and started yelling at my brother to take the light down. She told him, "That's the last straw," even though that was literally his first interaction with her. She blamed the light for making her dog bark. My brother calmly asked, "Will taking it down stop your dog from barking?" He removed the light that night anyway. Cameras, complaints, and chicken coop trouble. Fast forward to early June, they put up 2 security cameras pointed directly into our yard. While my brother was out doing yard work and tending to his emotional support chicken, we'd catch the family actively monitoring him on their phones as the cameras tracked his movement. Then, we got hit with a notice from the village: remove the chicken coop and take down the ultrasonic pest repellers because they were allegedly a nuisance. We'd never once complained about their constantly barking dog over the last 5 years, but apparently they had no issue filing complaints about us. I contacted Animal Control, who told me barking complaints go through the police. I called the non-emergency line and explained the chronic barking issue. They said someone would follow up, but I never saw an officer come out. Police involvement starts ramping up. One day, while my brother was sunbathing in the backyard, part of him was apparently visible on their camera. They called the police. Eventually, he got fed up with being watched and started making rude gestures toward their cameras. They called the police again this time. Officers came to our door and issued him a disorderly conduct ticket for the gesture and for being partially exposed in his own backyard. We made a complaint about their cameras, but police said they weren't illegal. To respond, my brother stapled a sign on a tree in our yard that read, "Train your dog." The neighbors called the cops again. Soon after, we received 2 citations from the village. One for the ultrasonic repellers, which aren't even banned by ordinance. 2 for the chicken coop. I'll get to that later. The police kept showing up. One day they told us we needed to get along, even though we weren't the ones constantly calling them. The neighbor even accused my brother of breaking into their yard, a claim not supported by their own cameras. We add a camera too, they don't like it. Since their cameras weren't an issue per the police, I installed one pointing back in their direction. The next day, they threw up a giant privacy tent installed with holes, cement, and poles without contacting the proper utility marking service or getting approval from the homeowners association or village. Out of respect and to avoid further drama, I redirected our camera back toward our yard only and enabled motion tracking with artificial intelligence. I emailed the police chief asking for the disorderly conduct ticket to be dropped. An officer later compared the gesture to yelling "fire" in a crowded theater. After a brief investigation, they said the ticket would stand. But after I posted the story on Reddit, people pointed out that making that gesture is protected under the First Amendment, and the "fire in a theater" claim was outdated. The post gained traction, and that same day, an officer showed up. No one answered, but they called my brother and said the ticket was dropped. Win one. More complaints, more citations, more nonsense. Next, we handled the ultrasonic repeller citation. We used a sound meter, confirmed it was under 45 decibels, and relocated them to another part of the yard. The code compliance officer cleared it via email. Win 2. But the neighbors weren't done. They installed 2 more cameras, making it a total of 4, 3 on our backyard and 1 facing our driveway. The chicken coop battle. The neighbors also complained about our emotional support chicken to the village and the homeowners association. While the village technically allows chickens, the homeowners association does not. My brother has been diagnosed with depression, anxiety, mood dysregulation, and traits consistent with being on the spectrum. A licensed mental health professional provided a letter stating the chicken is part of his treatment plan. When I requested a reasonable accommodation, the homeowners association immediately denied it, citing community complaints, really just one neighbor. They also claimed the coop needed to be built with siding and shingles matching our home. I corrected them, they were confusing the shed with the coop. Still, they denied us. I filed a complaint with the Department of Housing and Urban Development under the Fair Housing Act. The homeowners association said they'd consult their lawyer. Eventually, they held a Zoom meeting with my brother and their attorney. A week later, we got a letter approving the chicken. Win 3. The chicken coop saga continues. The homeowners association eventually approved the chicken after reviewing my brother's situation. I thought that was the end of it, but the saga continued this time with the village. Now that I had homeowners association approval, I went to apply for a permit for the chicken coop. But instead of processing the request, The village began questioning why I had a shed in my backyard, a shed that's been there for over 5 years without any problems. Suddenly, after years of no issues, the village claimed it was now a code violation and said they wouldn't issue a permit for the chicken coop until I addressed the shed. They're now demanding that I get a permit and homeowners association approval for my plastic, prefabricated shed, even though it has been there for half a decade without a single complaint, until, of course, the neighbors started going out of their way to stir things up again. This has become yet another headache, and it's still an ongoing battle I'm forced to deal with, all because of their relentless complaints, fence problems, and more harassment. Our backyard fence was falling over, so I hired someone recommended on a community app. The Homeowners Association allows 5-foot cedar shadowbox fencing, and we were replacing the same style using the same post holes. Naturally, the neighbor came out with arms crossed, staring, then went back inside. Minutes later, village officials showed up, threatening arrest if we didn't stop immediately. We needed a permit. I went to the village, who said I needed Homeowners Association approval first. I asked the village about building a double fence. They said yes. I emailed the Homeowners Association, and they asked for a letter from zoning. Zoning said they don't issue letters and that everything's in the ordinance. The Homeowners Association took 2 weeks to approve, leaving us without a fence in the meantime. Eventually, the permit was obtained, and the fence was built. The neighbor confronts my mother. One day, my mom was outside watering her plants when the neighbor called her over to the fence to talk. My mom, trying to be polite, walked over. The neighbor told her that my brother needs to respect them, that their dog should be allowed to bark whenever it wants, and reminded her that they were here first, as if that somehow gave them control over how we use our own backyard. She then told my mom that we should move our shed and chicken coop to the other side of the yard, toward a different neighbor. I guess she thinks she owns our property line now too. My mom calmly reminded her that she was the one who first approached my brother, aggressively yelling at him over a floodlight when a simple, respectful request would have been more than enough. My mom told her, "If you want respect, you have to show respect too." More drama over a chicken walk. One day, my brother was walking the chicken along the fence, and my camera tracked him. The neighbor, who was in their hot tub, assumed he was filming them and began yelling insults such as "stupid idiot" and other unnecessary words. The next day, they called the police, falsely claiming my brother was the one shouting vulgarities. In mid-August, police showed up again. No one was home. They left a note saying "backyard." When they returned, they served my brother court papers. The neighbor was filing for a stalking no-contact order. Their claims included: he made rude gestures toward their camera. His backside was visible on their camera in our yard. He paced and threw a chair or bucket in his own yard. He shouted vulgarities he did not. He spied on them despite them having 3 cameras pointed into our yard. At the court hearing, they showed cropped 1 to 2 second video clips of my brother. When we tried to show the full video context and police visits, the judge didn't want to see it. He cut it short and issued a mutual order of protection for 1 year. Final court order says, no contact between parties. They must control their dog's barking. We must not provoke it. My brother can't make rude gestures, so much for the First Amendment. No cameras pointed into the other's home. No shouting across the lot line or from inside the homes. At first, I felt like we lost, but honestly, I'm fine with the outcome. They didn't get their stalking order, and now they're required to control their dog, which has made our backyard unusable for years. Looking back, these neighbors clearly believe they're entitled to our yard and our behavior. They use the police, village, and homeowners association as tools of harassment, filing complaints and creating stress for our family over nothing. In the end, we endured 6 to 7 police visits, multiple citations, a court appearance, surveillance by 4 cameras. All we want is to be left alone and enjoy our yard in peace, while also having the right to decide what we place or build in our own backyard.